Grow your cleaning business, make more money, have more time. This is the Profit Cleaners Podcast with your hosts, Brandon Condrey and Brandon Schoen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Profit Cleaners Podcast, the only place where you can learn from the top 1% of cleaning business owners from around the world to take it to the next level and win. I'm your host, Brandon Schoen. I'm joined by my co-host, Brandon Condrey in the house. What's going on, Brandon? We're going to talk about happy endings today. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, so we've talked about it before, but Brandon and I both have business coaches, like we are business coaches for you guys, the cleaning owners, but that doesn't mean that we know everything there is to know. So we try to learn from other people. And so in one of my groups that I meet with once a month, they bring in external speakers. And this time we had a couple guys who have sold off their businesses and, they've come a couple times before. But this time, one of them in particular, he said this thing about, considering what's your happy ending. And he meant it for you, the business owner, not the business necessarily. So why are you, the business owner, doing this, and what does the happy ending look like? And so this guy took it to the extreme such that once a year he goes on this kind of like personal retreat for a couple days out in a cabin by himself, jots a bunch of things down. He ends up at the end writing a letter to his wife and kids and kind of telling them like, this is what my happy ending is. And so for him, that his happy ending was once he sold the business and was retired, he wanted to babysit his grandkids as much as possible and like do a lot of fly fishing. And that was what his happy ending was. So I just want to discuss with you guys why do this and what does a happy ending look like?
Yeah. Well, like that's a great question. Like why even do this in the first place? Why build a business? And really kind of like the best way to do this is start with the end in mind, right? Like start with where you see yourself in the future. What's your goal of getting to, and ultimately put a picture on that next to your goals, and that should help drive you forward. Like that's what I do. That's what Brandon does. We're actually working on dream boards and vision boards and goals and stuff with our team right now, which is really fun. But start with the end in mind. And maybe we should just tell people why we're even doing Profit Cleaners. People ask us that all the time too, Brandon. Like, why are you guys doing the podcast? Why do you guys have this coaching? Like, what in the world are you guys doing here? So we should just share that with them as well. So
sure. All right. So, part of it is definitely that we learn just as much when we're teaching stuff. Not that we're not know-it-alls. Like you're going to tell us something as a result that we might have not known, and that may end up getting incorporated into our business, and then it ends up in a podcast episode or a course module and ends up getting incorporated into a lot of people's business. So part of it is that we learn just as much teaching as we do running the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And through teaching, we actually understand our business better because we actually have, it's like a different way of thinking. Like running the business is one thing, but when you actually have to like step back and like explain the steps of what you're doing, then you really understand like, oh, this is actually what we're doing that's making it work. And then simultaneously we're doubling down on our business and making it work better. And because we understand it better, right? It's like it's a different level of thinking there. So that's a huge one. Another one is basically, I think it was Tony Robbins that talked about this, but the highest level of success and achievement and fulfillment is not what we think, which would be like achieving our own success. Once you achieve a certain level of success, apparently this is kind of the concept is, it's not really fulfilling at some point. The higher level of fulfillment is actually showing other people how to get there and helping other people up. And that's actually really, really true. That's why we kept doing the podcast years ago. We started having people reach out and say, guys got to keep doing this podcast. You guys have got to keep teaching this stuff. It's changed my life. It's like saved my family's business. And when we started getting those messages, I was like, I lit up and I was like, this is awesome, man. Like I already feel like we're making an impact in our community with the cleaning business, but like when you can really help other people like change their life and do the same thing that we're doing, it's pretty amazing and pretty fulfilling, So
yeah, I like this one a lot because I remember when Brandon and I were first brand new, we had a window cleaner kid that we were working with. He was maybe like 20 and maybe it was a bit little than that, but early 20s for sure. And I remember him asking us one time, he's like, why are you guys helping me? And I told him then, I was like, look, neither of us, Brandon and I, wouldn't be here if someone hadn't helped us along the way without expecting anything in return. So yeah, like I've had business mentors before. My grandfather, owned a business and ran a pawn shop, and he taught me all kinds of stuff about business back in the day. And then even the investors that helped start San Diego Green Clean were my former bosses, and they've continued to stick with us and help us just in being a sounding board, someone to ask advice of. So, and that was part of the reason it's fun to help people. It's fun to watch them succeed and be able to answer questions. It's fun to be a mentor. And, like we did use that guy for window cleaning, and it made us look good to our customers, but we weren't expecting a kickback or anything. It was just like, look, we're going to help our customers win their clean house by using you, and then you get a benefit, and then someday you'll tell people about us and it's no big deal. But it was just fun while we did it, and I do think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can look back in my life too, same thing. Like there's so many mentors I've had, whether I paid them a lot of money or not. Different people, some people didn't, and some people just offered free advice. But in any scenario, it was a lot of those people that changed my life, right? And they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and they showed me the ropes and showed me the path. And that's really, I think, one of the most important things you can do as an entrepreneur is have people that have gone before you model what's working, and don't try to figure it out on your own and make your own mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes, right? So that's just kind of like reciprocating the goodwill, I guess, that we've been given. Like, we've had people help us, or we've paid people to help us, but it's like still we understand the value of that mentorship, of that guidance, and those principles of just passing on the torch, basically. And that's why we're doing that with you guys as well. So anyways, hopefully that answers your question on that. And there's one more, Brandon. You want to touch on the last one, why we're doing it? But
yeah, so like this is a long-term sort of strategy that's come about recently, but by helping a bunch of cleaning companies use the same systems, standardize some things, here's some pricing, here's how you clean with a team sort of attitude, and some general management things. There is a potential in the future where we could speak with a private equity or even form a private equity co-op and come up with an exit strategy for these cleaning companies where you've got a systematized, profitable cleaning business that might be able to be sold to a larger group, like where we kind of combine efforts in multiple states with multiple brands. And that may end up being an exit strategy for a few folks. Again, that's something in the works long term. There's no guarantee on that, but it is certainly interesting as an option for why continue with the cleaning company long term.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that long-term vision, right, guys? And that's what we're casting the vision for you guys. This is the same thing you want to do with your teams, but it's like cast the vision big. Maybe you guys can see that dream of your dream fitting inside of that. And when you're building this business the right way, it's highly, like, not only can you get a lot more money, but it's like if you want to hold on to it, it's going to cash flow, it's going to operate way better, it's going to work without you and keep running without you. And if you build it right, when you build it right, you can also exit for a crazy payday, right? Like if you're doing it the right way, it's a valuable asset, right? And so we want to keep exploring that. No promises, no guarantees, but that's definitely on the table. We're looking at that. So if you guys are at all interested, like, just another reason to keep being involved with what we're doing and the bigger vision here of where we're going. And but kind of got on a tangent there. Let's get back to like start with the happy ending, so like that's kind of why we're doing this, the happy ending on the backside of that, like the future of why we're building this business. But I guess it's kind of just like, keeping yourself tuned in, right? Of like, what's the goal, and constantly reminding yourself of like why you're doing this, so you don't get burned out. If you forget why you're doing this, if you don't have the reason why, there's a great book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And if you start with why, everything else falls in line. Everything else gets easier, right? And it's really what's going to drive you forward and get you to keep taking action. It's hard to be consistent and persistent and persevere when you don't have like a big vision that's driving you and pulling you towards that, right? Wouldn't you say, Brandon?
Yeah. So it's kind of like what we do with EOS, which is forecasting out what the goal for the company is in 10 years and then reverse engineering it. You want to do this personally. So like, what does the happy ending look like after you're all done? After you've sold the business, or you retired, or maybe not retired. Maybe part of the happy ending is not retiring. So you kind of keep that in mind. The guy who taught us this, he does it once a year and he goes back to look at it, and it will change over time. Like it will change if you have kids, it'll change when you have grandkids. Like there's lots of things that will influence this. So you're going to come up with it now, but that doesn't mean that you're going to stick to this for the rest of your life. So you come up with a happy ending, and then maybe you're going to visually represent that somehow, and you're going to put that on a bulletin board or something on the wall above your desk, and you can kind of look at it when you're stressed out. Like, this is what I'm shooting for down the road. This is why I'm doing it. And then that'll also help you guide in making decisions like, should the business do XYZ? Does that help me get to my personal happy ending? Does it help the company get to the EOS goal? Like, those are the two things you could look at along the way. You don't have to share those happy endings with anybody, but it's just something that you should be looking at along the way, a reminder about why you're doing it. And it can be a moving target, but it's just, I think it's kind of a fun exercise to see, like, this is what it would look like in an ideal world, like at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, again, if you guys don't have this reason why, this is also why we started, I think it was the third episode of the podcast that we talked about having a reason why, and starting with the end in mind, but having a purpose that you build into your cleaning business, right? Like outside of just cleaning, like who are you actually helping in the community? Are you, like, we're doing cancer cleans, but we open that up to nominating anyone in the community that needs help. But like having that bigger purpose is a huge reason why a lot of people choose to work with us, right? And it's like very compelling. It's like this bigger, like, my money is going to go further when I have this company that has this huge vision, this purpose, this reason why, that my money is going to go further, right? So I'd rather work with that company. And it's the same with, as you're doing the grind of the daily grind, sometimes when you're down in the weeds, you forget, like, why am I even doing this, right? And like, so you got to come back up almost to the mountaintop, like Brandon's guy in their group. He goes out to the woods, and it's like kind of like going out to the woods or going up to your mountaintop and remembering your vision, remembering your purpose of, like, what am I really doing this for? And when you do that, if you do get caught in the weeds and you're doing the daily cleaning and the daily grind too much, you forget that. So that's why you got to constantly remind yourself. And like what Brandon just mentioned there, putting it up on your wall, like, you guys have probably heard of vision boards before. Vision boards have been out for a long time. We're making these right now with our team, but it's like, have a vision for where you're going, not only for yourself, but this is so key for your whole team. So your team knows the happy ending too, right? Like, your people aren't going to stick around. They're going to burn out in the weeds unless they remember why they're doing this and what's the happy ending for them. What's their dream? And when you cast the big enough vision for your team, and all your team can see that dream fitting inside your vision, that's how you keep people long term, and that's how everyone's happy, because they're going to stick around for that happy ending and see it through. And yeah, it's been monumental. I think just us doing that internally in the company with the EOS, which is the entrepreneur operating system that we use, and get everyone on the same page. And it's really key. I think it just builds your team. It gets everyone on the same page. Everyone's excited. They feel like they're part of something great. Feels like they're, what other company have been a part of that did this? Nobody, right? So at the very least, your people are going to leave and be like, hey, I got better. That was the best place I ever worked. And hopefully they stay with you long term until the happy ending happens, right? But so anyways, I think that's huge, man. Like, it's ultimately like the thing that's going to pull you through all the hard stuff you're going to go through building a business. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, being an entrepreneur. And when you have a big enough happy ending, reason why pulling you through, it doesn't matter. Whatever hard stuff comes up, you'll get through it, because you're not focused on the task in front of you. You're focused on this big vision, like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Whatever I got to do to get there, I'm going to keep going, right? And so that's ultimately how you program it. So,
and then we've talked about it before, but you guys are business owners. You're out there, you're in the community. Some of you might be in a networking group like BNI or something, and you see other business owners. And I think what happens to a lot of them is they successfully start a company, they create some work for themselves, they arrive at the point where bills and personal living expenses are covered, and then they stop. They built themselves a job, which is not what Brandon and I built. We built a machine that keeps going, and we can do other things instead of having a job. But you get to the point where you have a job, and a lot of people just quit there. Like, I have a full-time job, I'm good. And we've talked about this person before, but I remember meeting someone in the business neighborhood that had been working at this company for 14 years, 10 years, something like that, but they were still working 12, 14-hour days. And that is not my happy ending. I mean, maybe it was her happy ending, but when I learned that about her, she was complaining. So I don't think it was her happy ending. So, you have to make sure that you don't get stuck. So maybe this is going to resonate with some of you that are now working 50 hours a week. And you're like, why did I do this again? Like, I was working 50 hours a week at the other job where I at least had benefits, and I don't have anything at this one because I own it myself and there's no money to do any of that. So just try and engineer past that. Like, what does it look like past this, and how do I get there? So what's an ending for you, Shane? Like, where's the personal Shane happy ending right now? Maybe we can share that.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff too, guys, because we're actually just talking about this with our team this past week with our coach, and every one of our team, including Brandon and I, went through. We shared personal goals, professional goals, wins, other things we're working through. But yeah, it's really inspiring when you hear not only your own goals, but especially your team, and it really just like bonds everybody. I think it's really cool. But some of mine, it's always been freedom. It's always been the lifestyle, having the time to spend. I got 5 kids. I got my hands full, and I want to spend all my time with my kids and my wife, and travel. But ultimately, like, we live in an amazing little ski town here in New Mexico, and just getting outside, being with my kids every day, sharing those memories. Like, I have this small window of time to enjoy that, and I don't want to miss a moment. And yeah, ultimately, some of my big audacious goals would be, one I shared with the whole team was have a farm in Argentina, have a bunch of pigs and cows and goats and horses my daughter can ride, and would be awesome to have a winery on it, grow some like truffle mushrooms or something crazy, and just like be outside again, like fishing all the time, or doing stuff outside. I love being outside. So have a private jet, so that you can fly around to different islands or different places with the family, and just, again, capture those memories. And really, it's just like, that's why I'm doing this, is like all the hard stuff we go through. It's doing the stuff that most people aren't willing to do, so that I can have the life most people won't have tomorrow and in the future. So that's kind of like just one snippet of what that looks like, is just eventually getting that time back, being there with my kids for all the important moments, being the best dad, being the best husband I can be, and also really just having freedom and time, to do what we love. And, maybe whether it's a farm or doing something else crazy, traveling. I love to travel. I love speaking other languages and learning that stuff. So that would be all included in that, kind of what that looks like. What about you, man? I know you got some crazy vision goals as well. So
yeah. So, I mean, right now, like, same thing as you, like, the kids are only going to be this age for a certain amount of time. And rather than being buried in a job for 50 hours a week, trying to like hustle it out, I want to spend time with those kids. You get like 18 summers before they're off to college, and I'm already through 10 of them with our oldest. So yeah, right now the goal is like, we've got these big family vacation goals we go, but the happy ending really would be to get a house somewhere on the Great Lakes, like one of the Great Lakes. I don't think we're picky about which one right now, although Superior is kind of scary, but being up there, having a house on the water with a sailboat, and in an ideal world, like, there would also be like a little plane, not the Brandon Shane Private Jet Express, but a little one with a propeller that I learned how to fly myself. So just a little 4-seater plane that you can take from here in New Mexico, which is always going to be home, to the second home for summer vacation on a lake, which I think would be super cool. And yeah, just I don't think a lot of people, I mean, there's plenty of people that do that, but I don't know how many people around that are goal oriented like that, where you're going to focus on a goal and just continue to try and hack away at it until you get there. And even if you miss by some measure, if you come close to it, like, you're doing more than someone who gets a job and then just stops. So yeah, like that right now, that's the happy ending. But part of this key is to keep reevaluating it on a recurring basis, and this is something that my wife and I do. We always talk about these things, and like the Great Lake House thing was sort of a recent, yeah, that would be cool. And so last summer, to try and move towards that goal, we took a trip up there. Like neither of us had been on the Great Lakes, so we went, saw it, be like, yeah, this is awesome. We should totally do this. And then you switch gears to, cool, now how do you actually do it? How do we make this happen? Like what boxes do we have to tick to get this goal over the finish line? And so I think that's part of the exercise, actually, is if you keep in mind that happy ending, then immediately your brain switches into, cool, what do we have to do next to get there? But if you don't have the goal in mind at all, then you're not doing that. Like you're not thinking about those things.
Yeah, man, I love that, dude. It's so amazing. And what you just said there was so key, because it's like a lot of people are afraid to go touch their dreams. Like a lot of people are, I don't have the money yet to go do that, or I wish I could have that, right? It's like this distant thing, which means if you feel like it's distant, you're going to act like it's going to take forever to get there. So it's like bring it closer, bring it into focus. And like you did, Brandon, like go out and feel it, touch it, like experience it. Like what would it be like to have this life, right? And what it does is it triggers in your mind the RAS, which is your reticular activator in your brain, that makes you start noticing all the things in your life in order to get there. So it's like, even if you're like, hey, I want that car, go test drive that car. It doesn't mean you need to buy it right now. Just go experience what it feels like to be in that car. Go experience what it feels like to be in that sailboat or in your dream house. Just go walk through it. You don't have to buy it, right? And now your brain is going to say, this is possible. What do I need? Like you said, Brandon, what do I need to do to create this? And your brain goes to work. And the reason this is, if you just take it, like if you ever have bought a car before, right? You start, first of all, when you didn't have that car, you probably didn't notice it anywhere. But when you bought the car, you probably started seeing it everywhere. You're like, oh man, it's everywhere. I see it on the road. I see it on the outside of the highway. It's because your brain started noticing it, right? And so it's the same thing with your dreams. When you bring it into focus, your brain starts picking up on, hey, what do I need to do to make that a reality? And it really does like get you excited. It like lights you up, and you're like, it just recalibrates like your whole brain and like your focus, and like you get excited to go to work. You get excited to get up in the morning because you're like, you're moving towards that, right? And then instead of being like, oh, dreading your day and like, what do I got to do today? I got to do this again. Instead, you're like, whatever I got to do to get there, your brain's like, let's put the pieces in place. Here's the other thing you need. Here's the resource. And like what you're saying, it's what do I need to do next? But more importantly, and we're going to do a whole nother episode about this, but who is already doing this that I can follow in their footsteps, and who's already done this that I can just model after, and have a mentor or whatever it is, to get there. And so, but yeah, I think that's huge, is go touch your dreams, guys. Create a happy ending, write out your goals, just like we do with our business with EOS, 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 3-year goals, 1-year goals. Like what are the craziest dreams that you could have? Like, don't be scared to put them out there and be like, it sounds crazy now, but like whatever you think is possible is possible. Like you create your reality with your thoughts. So it's like, think big, start thinking bigger, instead of like shrinking your dreams into this little box where you're like, it's not very exciting. Like get really big, scary, exciting dreams. It should scare you a little bit. Your dreams should scare you. They should feel a little bit unattainable, or a lot unattainable, which is going to drive you. That's going to make you think bigger, because you're like, hey, if I got to go 10x instead of 2x, it's the same work, but now you're even more driven, because you're like, I want the bigger goal. That's more exciting to me, right? So yeah, I think, our happy endings are going to drift. Like those are new ones. Like I remember a few years ago, Brandon, you were like more focused on just flying and doing the private flying around and doing that, but it's like shifted more, and like it's always going to change, right? So you got to constantly revisit your goals and your dreams, and talk about it, share it with your team, share it with your family, share it. That's why we're sharing these dreams with you guys, because the more you talk about it, the more it becomes that you're committed to it, the more it's going to happen, right? So
so this is a very like nebulous topic, and it's kind of a feel good thing, but like it can't all be practical advice. Like some of this is you having to get out of your own head and get out of your own way. And if you track a lot of successful people, this is how they started. They started with a goal and they shot for it. Like Jim Carrey wrote himself a $20 million check one time before he booked a movie role, and then he became the highest paid comedian in the history of movies with a $20 million thing. I think I heard a story the other day about Billy Joel. I want to say it was Billy Joel, you know, where he grew up. There was this huge house on Long Island, like some of the most expensive real estate in the world. And he used to shuck oysters by this beach house on a corner. And he told himself, he's like, one day I'm going to live in that house. And then when he got successful, one of the first things he did was go buy that property, specifically that one that he had looked at when he was a nobody. And so I do think that not everyone is wired that way, but that doesn't mean that you're not. It means that you have to try. And so, you know, suspend disbelief, try something new, think about a weird dream, build a vision board. I think it'll be fun. And, you know, someone's going to criticize you and say, this is just a pipe dream. You're not doing anything to make it happen. But like, you're looking at it, you're mentally trying to like situate this. Like, how am I going to be able to get there? Well, I mean, first we got to know where we're going. So that's this build your happy ending exercise. And then we know what to shoot for. If the happy ending is more money, like that's not specific enough. Like, money is the tool to the end, like the means to justify the end. So money is never a goal for me. It's like, okay, if I know what I'm shooting for, the house, the boat, the plane, I know how much the house, the boat, and the plane cost. Now I can reverse engineer. How much do I need to save up for a down payment for this? Or how much do I have to sell the cleaning company to be able to pull all this off and have the money to enjoy the stuff afterwards? So that's what we're talking about, really, is like, it's a thought exercise, and it's fun and scary at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And if you guys feel anxious, like when you think about these things, a little bit anxious, a little bit scary, like, oh my gosh, it feels out of reach, that means that you should move towards it, right? Anything you're like, I know I need to do that, I know I would love that, like just start moving towards it, start taking action, and continually remind yourself about it. And this is kind of the morning formula. There's a book out, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's like The Miracle Morning, I think is what it's called. And it talks about taking this dream, creating a vision board, writing it all out. And then this is what I've been starting to do more recently too. And we're going to be sharing this more with our team here soon, but it's like, you should have that vision. You should read it out loud every single morning. You should touch that dream every day and remind yourself of why you're doing all this stuff, right? And the more you do that, the more that dream becomes real, because really your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and not reality. So it's like, the more you visualize it, the more you look at it, the more you say it out loud as if it's already happened, the more it just starts to happen. Like, your brain goes to work and it starts to happen, and you start pulling in the resources. You start noticing, hey, this person's going to be a great resource and help us build this business. This person over here, this software, this marketing, whatever it is, like, you're going to start getting ideas and say, that's the next piece I need. This is the next person I need to help me get there, right? So yeah, put it into place, guys. Write it down. No great person achieved anything without having goals, without having the end in mind, without having this happy ending in mind. So put it out there, let it scare you a little bit, and move towards it, you know? And once you, like, the funny thing is, once you move towards anything that scares you, you realize, like, hey, that wasn't so bad. It wasn't as scary as I thought. Actually, this is a lot of fun. And you get stronger, you get better. And the more uncomfortable you are, that's when you're growing. That's when you're getting better and you're sharpening your axe so you can, you know, get after it and get it done. So
yeah, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone.
Yep, absolutely. So hopefully you guys got a little inspired from this podcast, and our mission and challenge to you is go create your happy ending. Go start with the end in mind. Go create your dream board, your vision board, and just like keep looking at it every day and let it inspire you as you guys are on the journey. It's a journey. You're never going to arrive in the world of business. It's constant improvement. You know, it's never going to end. You're on the journey, but you guys are here listening to the podcast. We're on the journey together. So that's encouraging, and we can all get better together and continue to learn from each other. And a rising tide raises all ships, as Kennedy said. So Brandon, tell them where they can learn more about building this dream with us and getting into the business to the next level. Let's share that real quick.
Yeah, you can learn more about what Brandon and I are doing all the time at profitcleaners.com/masterclass. You'll find out about the Facebook groups we have where you can talk with like-minded people, and even throw out your happy ending in there. We can all talk about it as a group. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Join the Facebook group. Go to profitcleaners.com. Click the join on the Facebook group. There's 10,000 people in there now. So get in there, share your vision, share what you're doing. We'd love to help you guys out. And if you guys want to take it next level, book a call with our team, watch the masterclass. We'll talk to you more about it. And we love hearing about your dreams and what you guys are working on and how we can help you get there. So let's do it together. And, you can achieve way more doing it as a team, surrounding yourself with people doing it. So let's do it together. So we'll leave you guys with that.
Yeah. Keep it clean.
Keep it clean.
Thanks for joining us today. To get more info, including show notes, updates, trainings, and super cool free stuff, head over to profitcleaners.com. And remember, keep it clean.